Beautiful. That's a wonderful image. It really does speak well to the topic du jour today, raising the veil. And I said in the first service that there is this, we would all love it that if there was such a thing, that there was actually a physical veil, that it would all just be a matter of sort of raising the curtain, right? And then we would just know that we are one with the divine. And, you know, game over, we won, yay, you know, we did it. And this notion that it is something that could happen in some sort of an outer sense, because you and I are so outer directed most of the time. We're looking at how we can go about fixing situations. Is that just a male thing? The women are going, well, I don't go try to fix things. We talk it out, we work it out, we feel it in our heart. Anyway, we do like it better when it's right there in front of us and we can see it. And so the spiritual work is really, it requires so much of us to intuit what raising the veil is about. It takes us really understanding that whatever separation that we may be experiencing in this sense of being separate from the divine is nothing that we can do in an outer sense. Now, we may go through a lot of machinations of spiritual practice, but all of those practices that we do really are just trying to trick this little imposter called the ego so that it relaxes enough or becomes wispy enough or becomes transparent enough so that we can just have a realization of what's within us always, yes? I mean, you know, it's not going to matter how much spiritual practice you do if I hold the notion that I'm going to become much more spiritual the more I practice. Because here's breaking news, folks. This just in. You can't get any more spiritual than you already are. You are already it. You are already it. You are the one that you've been waiting for. You are the one. The second coming of the Christ consciousness is you and I waking up. That's it. It's us waking up. It's us waking up. It's me waking up. It's me getting up out of my foggy forgetfulness, conditioned mind stupor that I'm in most of the time, thinking that my good is somehow apart from me. And having a recognition that the treasure house of well-being, of love and peace and joy and wholeness is already here and it's already now. I mean, that's it. That's what all the spiritual practice is about. That's the only reason you should come here, is to have that experience, is to coax that forward, to bring it, lift it out of the fog of forgetfulness into the light of recognition. That's the only reason we do this. That's it. There's no getting where, you know, this whole thing that I'm spitting. That means that there's a good talk usually when I'm spitting a lot. The Spirit is really watering the whole place. It's good for the environment and everything. But this notion that somehow that we have to become more holy, we have to become more worthy. Do you understand this one? Does anyone grow up with this? That we're just not good enough. We're not going to experience the fullness of God's love and wholeness and peace and joy and the blessings and the anointing of the Spirit until we finally get it right. Until you finally get it right. And this is just such blasphemy of what the truth is. It's blasphemy. Because you and I were created in the image and likeness of Spirit. We can't be anything other than what we are. We have the DNA in us. We are the divine. Now, may not be expressing that in its fullness, don't we know? But the DNA is there. The potential is there. The software is there. And the expression of that comes right from the realization, not from becoming, you know, molded and shaped from outside and somehow getting our behavior, you know, modified in such a way or you know, sitting just the right way. So somehow, you know, when the divine descends like the dove, that we're in the right place. Oh, I got it. It's nothing about what we're doing. It's an inside job. It's a journey without distance. It is the here, it's the now. So I wanted to spend several weeks with you on this quest for wholeness. And it comes from a book by Robert Brummett, who was a great guy. He was in my seminary when I went to ministerial school. He's still there, actually, teaches pastoral studies. The Quest for Wholeness, healing ourselves, healing our world. It's in the bookstore. You don't have to have it for this series. You may want it. It's really easy read. And this first chapter is on spiritual healing, which really is, you could call it Unity Basics 101. We have a Unity Basics class going on right now. We're teaching with the basic fundamental ideas of unity. This first chapter is about that. And what is so great, I was saying this to the folks as they were leaving the first service, when I teach this stuff, I get more excited about this than anything else that I teach. Because there's nothing more powerful than our teachings. That this idea that, Jesus said the kingdom of God is within. Now, I don't know what could be more exciting than that. I don't know what could be more liberating than that. I don't know what could be more transforming than that if we grok it, right? If we get it, if we own it, if we hold it, if we feel it, if we realize it, and then we express it. This is the truth that sets us free. So it's no small thing to say, well, this is basic unity. Oh my, that's life-changing. How many people came into a unity church and their life was changed by hearing these teachings? Yes, many of us were. I mean, it just turned everything around for me, literally everything around, because my whole agenda up until learning about these teachings was to live my life from outside in. Do you know this one? That I had my goals and my dreams, and I was living the American dream, which was to say, get a good education and get a good job and make a lot of money and buy a house and have 2.2 children and have a house overlooking the ocean, and then you've made it and you'll be happy. And I tried to redeem that promissory note, and it came back, as Martin Luther King said, insufficient funds. It wasn't enough. Do you know this one? There's a poverty of spirit that nothing can fulfill. It's only the realization of the treasure that you and I have within ourselves that can ever make us feel happy and satisfied and fulfilled. That's it. And so the journey to that realization is what this quest for wholeness is all about. And I want to begin by stealing several bullet points from the book, which are quite wonderful. What is spiritual healing? Could you bring the first slide up? Oh, got this right here. So spiritual healing, Robert says, the process by which we become whole. But you got to read the next one because obviously we are already whole. Well, we got to talk about this in some way, so we're going to call it a process by which we become whole. Because what it really is, it's not about becoming whole in the sense that we weren't before. It's about us what? Recognizing. Awareness. It's about awareness. So there is something to do on the way to this recognition, but it isn't the way the ego surface mind thinks, which is, I have to do something in an outer way. We have to do something in an inner way. And so this is a journey, an inner journey. You guys along for the ride on this journey with me? You think this might be fruitful for your intentions for this lifetime? I think it really will be. So the process of seeking, discovering, experiencing, and expressing our true nature, which is wholeness itself. Is the next one on there? Would you go to the next slide? Spiritual healing makes visible the wholeness that lies invisible within each of us. So it's like bringing it into the light, right? Bringing it into the light. It doesn't matter if you've got $1 million buried in your backyard. And if you do, by the way, visit the raffle table and the fundraising people. But if you didn't, if it's buried in your backyard and you don't know about it, you cannot profit. You cannot spend. So all we're really doing in this quest for wholeness is we're trying to coax that which is under the radar, that which is occluded by a lack of spiritual vision. And to find the way in and to see what we're not seeing with the ordinary body eyes. And then we don't hold it just lightly, wispily, like some faith affirmation. But we own it. We sense it. We know it. We embody it. And then we live it. And we live from that knowing. That's what wholeness is all about. It's about living it. So next slide. What's the premises behind spiritual healing? Well, this is where it gets to be basic unity. There's only one presence, one power, and one reality. Not two. Unity is a non-dual philosophy. We don't believe in any other powers. We believe in one power, one presence. And when we get into the class next week, we'll be talking about, well, how do you explain all the things that happen in the world that are not good? Come to the class for that. We've talked about that here. One presence, one power, one reality. We call that God. You may call it whatever you call it. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's the ultimate reality. It could be divine presence. It can be infinite intelligence. It can be divine love. It doesn't really matter what we call it. The thing is, it's just one presence, one power, one reality. And that's the only thing going on. No matter what else looks like is going on around here, there's only one thing going on. The one presence, the one power. Taking all kinds of expressions and forms and masquerading as all kinds of things that we call reality. But guess what? There's only one reality. So God is the ground of all being, the foundation of existence itself. We are each an expression of the one reality. Did you know that? You're an expression. You're a chip off the old block. You're an extension of this oneness. You are a microcosm of the macrocosm. And we somehow think that there's God and divine and unconditional love and peace beyond human understanding. That's there somewhere. And then there's us. But as it's been said so many times, you can't be separate from what you are. It's like the sunbeam, right? Thinking it's separate from the sun. Oh, I'm just a sunbeam, just a little sunbeam, just a little shaft of light. What's your source? Sunbeam can never be disconnected from the sun, and you and I can't be disconnected from the source. Or the wave going, I'm just a lonely wave in Santa Barbara. It's just me, and every night and all through the day, it's just one crashing experience after another. I crash on the beach every day and every night. A wave rises up out of the sea and then looks around and goes, I guess it's just me. And all the while, it's just the ocean just giving expression. It's just one little parenthesis in eternity, this one example of form out of the gajillion of forms that it could take. And here you are. But you never leave the source. You can't be disconnected from what you are. You can't be. You are life's self-givingness, self-livingness as you. But when we identify, and I do, and we all do, we identify with this form, and boy, does it ever look separate. I can give you the outline of where I end and where everything else is, right? So the problem comes in when we identify with this body as self, as the all of the self. Yes, we are human, yes, but we forget about this whole other dimension of our being, which is inseparable from life, which is inseparable from the energy of the divine. And that's what spiritual healing aims to correct. It is this movement from defining ourselves by outer appearances and the recognition of our true self, which is beyond appearances and within. Where was I? Okay. So as spiritual beings, we cannot, do I have this up there? We cannot be sick. Okay, I can't remember how much I put on the slide. As spiritual beings, we cannot be sick, poor, or unhappy because we are wholeness itself. But boy, doesn't that raise a few eyebrows? What do you mean? That must mean I'm not a spiritual being then, because I have been poor, and I have been sick, and I have been unhappy. Yes? Okay, well, here's the thing. As human beings, we can be poor, and we can be sick, and we can be unhappy. And so this is the great paradox. The great paradox is we have this enormous potential, and we have this great suffering. And the great suffering comes in not because we are human beings, but because we forget that we are divine. We forget that we have this connection with that part of us that cannot be diminished by the circumstances of life, that cannot be made poor by our finances, that cannot be made less than whole by our physical afflictions, that cannot be made less than happy by the circumstances of our life. There is that part of you and me, and that is the part that you and I are seeking to get back to, and that is why we do the work. There is something for us to do, but it isn't the way the world works. It isn't the way the world would say, give me the treasure map of all the things that I want to create in my life so I am not poor, unhappy. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It works at one level, but it doesn't work at the level that you and I think, are really ready to embody. And that is that peace that passes human understanding. That peace that endures beyond life going our way. That peace that can't be disturbed because it is beneath and it is behind and it transcends what's happening in this life on the physical plane. Our divinity gets lost in the guise of our humanity. It's like the body-mind is an imposter posing as a self. You know this one? It's an imposter. It impersonates the self, and if we believe it, then we look no further, and then we suffer. If we believe in the body-mind as being all of who we are, if we believe that, then that is the determiner of our well-being, yes? And that's why we suffer. You know, the Buddhists have it figured out pretty well, you know. The Buddha said life is suffering. And what he noticed about where he came to that realization is that life, in this outer sense, is constantly changing. Have you noticed that to be an absolute truism? It's just always changing, right? In this physical plane, it's always changing. She loves me not. He's here, he's gone, or he's back, oh boy. You know, whatever version, it's not going to stay the same. Can't make any predictions for your life, but I guarantee 6 months from now it'll be different from every one of you here. It is the maelstrom of shift happening in our lives. It goes round and round and round, and you know, you're here today and you're gone tomorrow and you're doing something and you're facing something else. It's just the way life goes. And what the Buddha noticed is that we become attached to things the way they are on this physical plane. They change. And then we suffer because you become attached to that which is constantly shifting. That's just about a guaranteed you're going to suffer, right? So this notion of well-being has nothing to do with attaching ourselves or relying upon that which changes. But what would be the other side of that? Is having our investment, putting our faith, having our awareness be embedded in that true self, which changes not. Which changes not. Because the rise and fall of circumstances will be the play of consciousness in this world. It's going to continue to happen. And the people who say, well, if you just thought the right thoughts and got the right treasure map up and you just got, you know, the money and then the perfect guy or perfect girl, and then you take care of all your healing because you visualize yourself being completely healed, and then everything's good. How long do you think that's going to last? Does anyone really think that's the answer anymore? I hope we're blowing a hole in that. It sells a lot of seminars and a lot of books. But don't you and I want something deeper? Don't you want that peace, that abundance that has nothing to do with it going my way? And do we even know what's best? You're going to create your own reality, and that's going to affect the rest of the world. Have you considered that? Do we ever consider anybody else? I just want what I want. What's better for me has got to be better for the world. Of course, I know that because I've got 20/20 vision. But we don't. We don't. It's presumptuous, it's arrogant to think we know what's best. But it's not presumptuous and it's not arrogant to claim our divine inheritance, to claim and know what we are as God's beloved, to claim that identity, because there's nothing more true about you than that. Nothing more true about you than the way you were created as a spiritual being. And in that, the winds of fortune and misfortune can do what they will. And you will remain steadfast. You will remain centered. You will remain grounded. You will remain, a part of you that is really you will remain unmoving, unmoved. And the bells will ring and it will be for you. Because that's what Spirit is constantly trying to do through us. Spirit is not interested in the play of consciousness on this level. It only would want that its creation know itself as it was created, and to realize the fullness of that. And so that impulse that you feel oftentimes, that sense of satisfaction, that sense of dissatisfaction, that you can call it divine discontent, that nagging feeling that something's not right here. If we spiritually interpret that, that is this sense of wholeness, that urge towards wholeness, that is wanting to get your attention, that is trying to pull you out of your forgetfulness, trying to pull you out of the illusion that you have, that life is going to be good out here in order to be good in here. To pull you out of that and to bring you into a much more authentic sort of journey, this quest for the inner realization of what you are. That's what that nagging feeling is most of the time. We just feel like something's not right. And sometimes the way we can explore whether that nagging feeling is superficial or whether it's a deep spiritual yearning is sometimes we just pursue, the ordinary whim and fancy and desires that we have. And, you go get the ice cream cone and you eat the ice cream cone and you go, that wasn't it. Or you find somebody, oh my God, after all these years, I finally found somebody and they matched up all the qualities that you wanted to have. I mean, you had them, you sent in an order to the universe. He's got to have this and that and this and that and spiritual and sensitive and handsome and strong and blah, 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 blah. And here he is. You meet it for lunch and you start talking and it's great. And then you have another conversation, another date, and you just know that you've arrived. But I don't mean to be the dark voice here, but somewhere along the line, something happens. Something happens. Because guess what? You haven't done your work, to say nothing of whatever he hasn't done, because we know he hasn't. Men don't do not much work anyway. That's what you guys are for. You do your work and we'll try to learn from you. Somewhere along the line, something happens. Something doesn't quite go well. And the thought that you could create the perfect person out there now comes in and goes, no, he wasn't the perfect one. Let me go back and look at my description again. Let's just see what I didn't take into account. And now I'm going to refine that. That's the way this surface mind works. It will never stop until you call off the search, until we recognize that the love that you and I are seeking will never come from outside of us. It will always be, always, always, always. Even if that person is standing in front of you when you feel all this love, guess where it came from? Do you think they gave you some love, like they put it in your heart? Like, here, I love you, here, take some. I'll take some of my love, I'll put it in you. They're just doing what they're doing and you have an experience, something gets triggered in you and this heart opens and you feel a wash of love and you see you standing there and you go, oh, it's you that I love. You are the source of my love. Does anyone relate to any of this? Okay. I've been married a long time, so I have had many experiences of working this one out. with the same person. But you know what I'm saying? It's not the same person. After this many decades, we have all gone through our iterations and our changes and everything, and we learn to kind of be with each other in a new way, don't we? Does anyone understand what I'm talking about? So this notion of it being outside of ourselves, you've heard me say it 1,000 times, and I'll probably say it 1,000 times, and yet 1,000,000 more times, because it's so seductive. And we just need to be reminded of it, that the quest for wholeness is it's a journey without distance. A Course in Miracles says it's a journey without distance to a home we've never left. And for many of us, a home we've never explored. It's an unfamiliar home. It's like the buried treasure that's there, but that buried treasure is within. And Jesus said it in, 28 parables about the kingdom of God, in every conceivable way, that the treasure is here, it's now, it's within, And that's such great news, because what if it was up to him? Right? What if someone else was holding the key to your heart, holding the key to your happiness? What if the government was responsible for your financial well-being? Right? Your sense of abundance. Let's just go that way. Right? What if the stock market had control over your sense of abundance? Right? What if your career, your work had everything to do with how good you felt about your contributions to the world, and how you felt like you had value and your self-esteem? What a terrible world we would live in. Would we suffer? And do we? And do we? And do we? So we're going to end the suffering. I'm making the claim that in the course of these 5 weeks or so while we're working with this book, we will find the path to liberation. And these are ancient teachings which will be revisited again and again. But before I go, I want to just touch on the causes of suffering. I don't think you've heard enough yet, have you? Come on, bring it again. So the cause of suffering is the result of believing something that is not true. Doesn't that seem ridiculously simple? The cause of suffering is believing something that is not true. Now, when we say true, do you understand the kind of true that we're talking about? Capital T, right? Truth. Yeah. We've embraced the unreal as real, and thus we have suffered. We have taken what's not real, and we have held that dearly to ourselves, and because that shifts and changes and morphs and becomes something today different tomorrow than it is to today, and we're clinging to it, hoping that it'll stay the same, or that it will change if we don't like it, and it surely changes in the way that we don't, then we suffer. So we embrace facts as reality, and they are not. Jesus said, do not judge by appearances, right? But by righteous judgment. We embrace appearances as reality. Facts change, appearances change, reality does not. Reality, capital R now, this is what doesn't change. The belief that we are separate from our source is the grandest illusion of all and leads to great suffering. When the Buddha said that life is suffering, he was referring to living life under the illusion of separation. When Jesus said there will be tribulations in life, he was referring to living based upon appearances and living with the belief in separation. That's what he was saying. This is Jesus Buddha 101. Believe in separation and you will suffer. Course in Miracles says the only lack you need to correct, the only thing you need to do is to heal your belief that you're separate from your source. The only reason the wave suffers, if it does, is because it believes it's separate from the ocean. And yet, every molecule of that wave mirrors the ocean. The light that you are is the same light that is your source. Every little photon, you match up with the divine. Spiritual beings, you hear this all the time. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. Have you heard that? Many times, right? Our human nature, it's important to notice that our human nature is an expression of our spiritual nature. It isn't like there's different things but there's different appearances. Right now, when I'm acting funny and stupid like I do, this is my true self, my divine self, expressing in this way. It isn't like I step out of my divine self and then become this character. It's in this moment, this is how divine self is expressing, right? So the goal of this human life isn't to become unhuman. It's like, I can't wait till this life is over so I'm not a human anymore and I can get back to being the spiritual being that I've always been, that, everyone tells me I am, but I'm stuck in this human body. No. It is being a better expresser of the spiritual nature that you have in the human form. The human form is a vehicle through which the spirit expresses, and it can be very different depending on what we're remembering, what we're identifying with. If we're identifying with our spiritual nature and that expresses through us, that's a whole different story, yes? Than if we completely forget who we are. And we think we're lacking the love, we're lacking the light, we're lacking the wholeness, we're lacking the peace, and all those things are lacking in us. And if I express in that way, woohoo, don't want to be around me, do you? Do you understand what I'm saying? So we don't castigate the human body and say it's like some religions think it's just, it's, what's a word that's used in religion sometimes? It's, what is it? Sinful or unholy or unworthy and all those kind of things. No, it's what is. It's part of what is right now. But if we identify with this spiritual nature that we have and that expresses through this body, don't you know some beautiful beings on this planet who are in human form and they are just lovely and you would love to have them around. And I'm going to be one of them someday. But in the meantime, you and I will all just be working on our stuff together. And many of you are already here. I know some beautiful beings here. And I look to you for my inspiration as well. So spiritual healing is a movement towards greater wholeness of being. It can take many forms. And we'll be talking about many of the ways that we can begin to unmask the beloved that is within each one of us. And what's a neat thing that we've been doing, the board members have been doing, we've been taking this course called the Q Effect, the art and practice of nobody and nothing against you. Living with the notion that nobody and nothing is against you. And what that has to do with is very close to this message today, is that you begin by harvesting the remembrance of who you've come here to be, your best qualities. And when you can look at people you admire, the great beings of the world, and you see maybe love or compassion or generosity, and you begin to say, I admire that. And then you create this card, and on one side of the card, it's who I've come here to be. All my spiritual divine qualities. If I was firing on all my divine cylinders, this is who I would be showing up as. And then the other side of the card, of course, you got to cover the dark side too. So you got to look at your Darth Vader side, the darkness, and you look at your shadow qualities. And of course, we all have shadow qualities, and these are the behaviors that you and I have that are connected with who we are not. But we think we are, and when we think we are, then we act in really stupid ways, and we do harm to ourselves and to other people. So this idea is bringing into light the shadow qualities and just recognizing they come from unmet needs that we've had from childhood or whatever, but that we can change the story. We don't have to keep living the story. Once we bring it into awareness, then we have an opportunity to see differently. So that's what we're doing as a board, because we want to heal ourselves. We want to be more authentic. We want to be more in alignment with who we've come here to be and to lead this community from that place, yes? To have that spiritual nature expressed through these human forms. And we're going to invite you all to participate in it as well. We're going to be offering this program to the whole community. Highly commend it to you. It's very powerful, very transformative, and at times uncomfortable, shall we say? Yeah, nobody likes to look at their stuff. But someone going out the door today, the first service said, "Oh, I don't know. I don't want to look at all that dark stuff and everything." I said, if you don't see it, if you don't look at it, you can't heal it. I mean, there's just no other way. I mean, until they come up with some kind of a laser, you can blast your shadow with light. I don't know. But until then, it's, see, the great thing about this, and this is what I'll leave you with, is that who you really are, this divine love, which is unconditional, can be with anything. This deep, abiding sense of wholeness and peace can manage everything that arises. And it's not diminished by it. It's not diminished by all that. It remains resolute in knowing itself. And that's why we can bring everything into the light of awareness. And that's what we're going to be doing over these next 5 weeks as well. We're going to be lifting up ways in which we can begin to let go of who we're not and harvest the awareness of who we have come here to be. Will you join me? Will you stay with us, stay present to this process? It's going to be really great, and I'm excited about sharing it with you. So, namaste, peace and blessings, Om Shanti, peace. Okay. I want to share with you somebody has shared with us what they love about Unity of Santa Barbara, then we'll bring our gifts. This person says this: for much of my life, I felt like an outsider. Maybe you can relate to this. I acted like that was okay, like I really did belong somewhere. But it wasn't until I came to Unity of Santa Barbara that I was able to drop the curtain of separation that I had felt. I came home. I felt loved and appreciated for who I am, not for who I thought I should be. And in that environment, I have flourished and have grown and have helped other people grow and flourish. I am so grateful for Unity and the wonderful divine beings that are here. And I am grateful for you as well.